Hey guys, what's up? Moses here, bringing you another new build guide. It is time to move on from the minor month and all that 100 push. Finally, started a new character yesterday. Made it to level 87 in about 14 hours. Um, and this is a twist on a very favorite kind of like playstyle of mine, which is castle channeling. This time around with Incinerate, Volatile Dead, and this time around we are playing a Jugg. I wanted to, well, a couple of things brought me to start this build. First, I got an Incinerate and Volatile Dead 2120, and also managed to craft a cast channeling staff. But also, I got this Watcher's Eyes that makes us, fire penetration while affected by anger, and enemies on consecrated ground of zealotry take increased damage. So that's a more multiplier. So it's a double Watcher's Eyes, which makes for quite a lot of damage. So with this build, we are reserving basically all of our mana, and this is possible with a new mechanic this league that they introduced with the enduring flask. So basically, up until now, you would had you had to have a certain level of mana to be able to cast your spells. Now, the mana flask is a duration flask. So when we press it, it lasts for 3.8 seconds, during which time it provides us with roughly 400 mana per second, right? Which is a whole lot, which allows us to cast and channel our Incinerate. So when we try to cast and channel it without it, obviously you see it kind of stammers. You can see this thing flashing because we don't have enough mana regen. But when we're pressing our mana flask, and of course while mapping, we're constantly going to get our charges up. We are going to be able to cast Incinerate and Volatile Dead while channeling. That's the concept of the build, and it is possible to reserve as much mana as I do simply because of this new Enduring Divine Mana Flask. Now, Divine Mana Flask specifically is not the best one. Eternal Mana Flask is the best one. Currently, I changed my loot filter. Next time you see this character, it will have an Eternal Mana Flask. The reason being is that Eternal has the same amount of charges. You can still use it 5 times, but it gives you slightly longer duration. So instead of 3.8, it's going to be like 4 point something. So a little bit of an extra duration over here, and of course that's what we want. But overall, a Divine Mana Flask, if that's what you have, works perfectly fine as well. On top of that, for our reservation, since we are using 3 auras here, I got +1 level of socketed AoE gems with increased area of effect, which of course affects both of our Incinerate and Volatile Dead. And the +1 socketed AoE gem works very nicely for all of our auras. It gives us a +1 because all of our auras, Herald of Ice, Anger, and Zealotry, gives us a whole bunch of damage, essentially making up for the fact that we're a Jugg, because Jugg itself does not have almost any damage on the Ascendancy. We're going to go through that in a second. But Anger and Zealotry gives us a whole bunch of damage through that, as well as Herald of Ice to add a whole lot of cold damage is possible because of Circle of Fear that we have with reduced mana reservation. So we attach all of those things with Enlighten level 4, with Charisma allocated from the Amulet notable with the Blight anointment mechanic, which allows us to get additional 8% mana reserve reduction and effect of auras, non-curse auras. So all of our auras get some increased effect, but mostly enabler of this build is the combination of all those things. The charisma with reduced mana reservation, the fact that we have this Circle of Fear, and the fact that we have an Enlighten level 4, and of course being able to cast our spell with Enduring Divine Mana Flask. If you're making a similar build like that, you don't have to use both of these auras. I only used both of these auras because I have this Watcher's Eye. You can definitely make either or, and you can definitely take this kind of template and make your own kind of build based on what you see here. Yeah, so we talked about the Ascendancy. Again, we're not getting a lot. Essentially just 8% increased damage per endurance charge. With this build, we're going to have 5 endurance charges, and that's it. So 40% increased damage from the Ascendancy, and that is all. But, of course, being in the Jugg means that we have all these endurance charges, additional physical damage reduction per endurance charge, further elemental damage reduction at max endurance charges, chaos res, additional reduced damage taken, more sustainability, and recovery, life regen through Unbreakable, and some area of effect. So this is what we're getting from the Ascendancy, and of course, being a Jugg, we're getting easy access to the best life nodes in the game. They're all kind of nearby, and we're getting a whole bunch of life off of that at this point. So when it comes to the tree, we are crit. We're using an Eclipse Shaper Staff for the global crit with increased crit chance for spells that I crafted here. On the tree, we're grabbing all of the life as mentioned, the Constitution, the cast speed, Holy Dominion with all the life nodes, and this endurance charge node right here. These great, spell casting, global crit, crit multi, and cast speed with staves over here. As well as more staff nodes over here and over here, with more crit and crit multi over here, a bunch of spell crit, and some life and chaos resists over here. More crit. We got Firewalker with fire, skill, increased cast speed and more fire damage over here. Cruel Preparation with life, more crit multi over here with Throatseeker, and the Shadow crit. We don't get Doomcast. It's simply not going to be too feasible for us to reach here, because I do want to pick up these area nodes and a jewel socket. So we have enough crit overall. These staff nodes are actually quite incredible. So yeah, that's basically it. When it comes to the links, I'm using a Shaper staff with Castle Channeling. There's a whole bunch of different kind of staffs you can get. The one I got was not with Etheric Fossils, but you can craft with Etheric Fossils. It has Castle Channeling level 18. Check out POEDB for requirements. I believe it's 75. This one is 78 or 77. We got that spell damage non-cast as extra hybrid, cast speed, crit for spells, and some lightning damage to spells. Again, we're playing solo self-found, so after 1500 or 2000 alteration, that's what we end up with, and I didn't want to spew more currency on this. I felt this should be enough, and it actually most certainly is. For the gloves, since we are chilling everything, since we got Herald of Ice, we got a temple pair of gloves that makes us, increase damage against chilled enemies, and that works for everything, as well as, alternatively, you can get Shaper gloves with cast speed. Something like that will also definitely work. Try and get plus AoE and get all these auras here. It makes for a really nice bonus overall for the damage and for the area of effect. The helmet is just fossil crafted with Scorch to get that fire resist, negative fire resist to nearby enemies, and a whole bunch of life from Pristine. On the boots, nothing too special, just life and some resists. I do, however, have two things here on the boots, which are the cold damage if you've been hit recently. You are constantly getting hit, and this is basically a permanent, 45 to 68 added cold damage, and it's a global roll. It will be added to all of our spells. So definitely a very good, source of additional cold damage. And we have Vow Righteous Fire, which makes for our Vow skill. over here. It gives us a big more multiplier for a long duration, something like 6.5 or 7 seconds at max level with the quality. And it has a soul gain prevention period. When the buff is over, there's like several seconds, I'm not entirely sure, maybe 12, maybe 13, maybe 14 seconds, at which point we cannot use our Val skills and we cannot gain souls. This period of time is called soul gain prevention, and during that time with this craft, non-Val skills will deal up to 60% increased damage. So this goes for all of our skills as well. Our Incinerate, Volatile Dead, and Orb of Storms will get an increased 58% increased damage, which is pretty huge because we are always using Vow Righteous Fire on cooldown. So we're going to get a whole bunch of more multiplier global roll for spells, and then a global up to 60% increased damage. Is pretty strong right here to be able to craft as an open suffix on a pair of boots. On the belt, I was trying Prismatic, Scorched, and Pristine. I only hit the Scorched and Pristine, so we got that fire damage and maximum life. Prismatic could give you also increased elemental damage. That would come instead, like in a perfect world, it would come instead of that increased life recovery from Flasks. You would get also an elemental damage roll. But again, so found, and I ran out of fossils. So we only have increased max life, tier 1, pretty strong, big resists, fire damage from the Scorched, and I crafted lightning resist that I needed. This is nothing too special, just a little bit of increased damage if you've killed recently, which is helpful for mapping, a little bit of cold damage to spells, and some life. And this ring, just the resistance that we need, and not much more outside of that. I will craft something better over here, an Elder Ring with fire damage for spells, but I was kind of like running low on Scours, Alks, not Alks, but Scours. I was kind of running low on them, and Regals, and slightly low on alterations, and I just could not get anything better. So at the moment, we just this ring covers our resistances, but an Elder Ring, ideally an Elder Opal Ring, or something like that, you could put over here. Or you can, of course, go with Mark of the Shaper and an Elder Ring to get that massive bonus. That's definitely a viable option. There's a whole lot of ways to gear up. I'm just showing you the way I geared up on this character here. This is a multi-modded Amulet. Managed to isolate the non-chaos as extra chaos. Crafted cast speed, area of effect, area damage, and global crit chance, and some life. Divined it a couple of times, hit pretty nicely with the divines because all of the rolls here has some significant variance, and we managed to hit near perfect rolls over here. Very happy with this amulet overall. And I believe I went through all the gear. Again, what enables this is the enduring prefix. And outside of that, we got a seeding of staunching as usual. Seer's Promise gives us 15 elemental as extra chaos, which makes for a pretty chunky, hefty damage increase as extra chaos. A diamond flask because we are a crit build. Quicksilver of warding to remove curses. And when you're bossing, I would argue you can easily use 2 enduring flasks. If you do a quick math, 3.8 times 5 charges means 19 seconds, and this is the worst version, right? You got the Eternal Flask. So if the Eternal Flask would last maybe 22, 23 seconds, and if you have that twice, even on like bosses like Uber Elder, you have minion phases where you can replenish your flasks, and you can always go back, and in again, get your flasks up again. So this could kill bosses. It may not be the most comfortable thing to do, but I mainly wanted to get a good mapper going on, and this is definitely absolutely doable, as is with the enduring. It's just probably going to take a little time getting used to, and you could totally do a single target with this. For the links, we got Incinerate, Volatile Dead, Control Destruction, Increased Critical Strikes, combustion and increased critical damage. You could go anywhere here with the final link. You could definitely go hypothermia, or area of effect, conk effect, you know, infused channeling maybe, arcane surge maybe, energy leech maybe, anything that comes to mind really. I went with crit multi here. Cast when damage taken only linked with enfeeble for the curse to reduce monsters damage. No immortal call, because we don't want to expand our endurance charges. I want to keep them up at all time at max. So no immortal call like I normally would. Vow Righteous Fire and increased duration is also a 2-link over here. And the auras we already mentioned: Herald of Ice, Enlighten, Zealotry, and Anger. Over here I got a Flame Dash, single link. This will be our movement skill. And we got a Desecrate Totem with Spell Totem and Spell Cascade that will spew a bunch of corpses that we can then use for the Volatile Dead, because this requires corpses to consume in order to create these fireballs. Right. And lastly, all the utilities in one Orb of Storms. This is supported with Ice Bite for frenzy charges. That's how we generate those. Innervate gives us innervation. Onslaught gives us onslaught. Power charge on crit, power charges, and arcane surge. So all the utilities in one Orb of Storms. I kind of got really lucky with only 400 fusings was able to get this thing done. And yeah, Basilica boss is a bit annoying, so we're not going to do that. Let's do I don't know, let's grab tier 14. Let's do a terrace map. Right, why not? All can go. Seems good. Alright, let's showcase this build and call it. There was a lot to talk about, but I mean, there's a lot of mechanics and a lot of things to explain about the build. So yeah, the important thing is that you really kind of like always make sure that you have your... Oh, by the way, Cassia, hello. That you always, gotta make sure you always have your, thing up, your mana flask, and it's very, like, you get used to it pretty easily, so it's no biggie. You can put a Desecrate Totem, and you see the duration. I mean, really takes care of everything as a duration flask, so it's pretty easy clap. Can leave the totem up. It's a pretty fun build. Blows up everything. I definitely enjoy it. Now, maybe you want a little bit of extra cast speed. If I would change anything about this build, would be maybe a little bit more cast speed. But that's like really it. Outside of that, I wouldn't change a thing. Let's grab some alterations. I spent like probably several thousand alterations on this character. If we include the staff itself, we're talking like something like 3,000 alteration orbs, maybe 3,500. So a whole bunch of them. Now there's a little trick I haven't shown you. I'm not sure that I even have it, but Jugg is very kind of like susceptible to getting one-shotted before you get all your endurance charges up. So you may have seen it earlier, like my HP went down, and that's only because like you really are vulnerable before you have all your endurance charges up. When you do, then it's like pretty much easy clap. Nothing really kills you too much. You got so much damage reduction sources. Um, so a way to generate your endurance charge is use Gluttony and then a movement skill. Gluttony makes it so that whenever you use a movement skill, you take physical damage, and when you take physical damage on this Ascendancy, you basically generate endurance when you're getting hit. So it's considered as if you're getting hit, right? Many flaming balls. Yeah, the damage is quite incredible, and it's quite easy. Just a tier 14 map to kind of like showcase a little bit of playstyle, a little bit of gameplay. Do I have Gluttony? I do not. I do. Okay, I do. Awesome. So I'll keep it with me. So basically, when you use the movement skill, see, I got this endurance charge, and if you take, it says take physical damage when you use a movement skill. So there you go. And you get endurance charges if you were hit recently from the Ascendancy. So when you're getting into a map, you can just pick up Gluttony, use the movement skill, get your endurance charges, and replace it immediately, because once you've gotten your first one, you're going to get 4 and they're going to last, and during that time you're going to be mapping. So I believe I talked about everything there is to say about this build, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys on stream. We're going to be leveling up this guy in the next few days, and then well, there's this Flesh Ripper that's probably going to make our next build. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.